Hello and welcome to another video on the RC Biker channel. Thanks very much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, smash the like button if you enjoy the video, and of course post a comment what you thought of this video as well. So today, very exciting one, we're going to be setting up and installing the engine into this 1/8 scale Ansmann Terrier Nitro Truggy. So let's pop the engine on the table, and we're going to start off by assembling the Force 36 engine into this big beast of a vehicle. Okay, so here's the big beast of an engine then. Thank you very much to everyone who voted for the engine for the Ansmann Terrier on the other video a couple of weeks ago. There were lots of votes for Force engines, not that many for this particular size engine, but lots of votes for Force. So I thought, you know what, why not, let's just go for the biggest one available. So here we've got the Force 36 size engine. It's a real beast, very heavy, comes complete with the pull start and the carburetor. Today we're going to start by installing the flywheel, the clutch and the bell gear. So here are the parts that we need then. We've got the copper flywheel cone, and then in this bag we've got the flywheel, the clutch shoes, the flywheel locking nut, the bell gear and some bearings. So let's get started then. So we're going to start off by popping the flywheel nut on. For some reason it didn't come with the engine, so I'm going to put one on there separately. So this simply slides on the end of the crankshaft. Lovely, sits on the end there. Next we need our flywheel. Now I've actually gone for the standard parts that the Ansmann Terrier would have had installed, so we know that it'll be the best setup for the car. So slide the flywheel on. That sits on there real nice. Make sure that it's nice and straight and square. And next we need the flywheel locking nut. This is the flywheel locking nut. Okay, so we need to make sure that we install it. It's going to sit on this way. It's going to sit on the engine this way. Now to help you with this, one thing that comes in really handy is a piston locking tool. This will be inserted into in place of the glow plug, allowing you to lock up the crankshaft from moving whilst you're trying to tighten up the flywheel. So we're just going to set the engine to bottom dead center, which is at the bottom of the sleeve. Lovely. And now we're going to insert our piston locking tool into there. That means that when we're now tightening this one up, it's not going to cause any problems with this turning. You see there, that is going to lock into place. So right, I'm going to pop a little bit of thread lock on there, not much, just a little bit, just around the threads, and now screw this one on. Take the tool. You want it done up nice and snug. There we are. Lovely, that'll do just fine. Now that that's on, we can then take out our piston locking tool. Good, and then we can just confirm that when we pull the starter, we're getting the flywheel. Okay, lovely. So that's the flywheel and the flywheel locking nut installed. Next thing we need to do is install the clutch shoes. So we're going to be using a 3-piece clutch shoe, which is pretty common for 1/8 scale size engines. You can see here we've got the 3-piece flywheel. So these are a little bit fiddly to install if you don't have a clutch tool. I do have a clutch tool, but I can't seem to find it. So it is doable without. So the springs and the clutch usually come separately. So then we just have to insert the spring into the clutch shoe, like so. Make sure it's so that the hole is lined up. Now this one will slide over here, and then what we're looking to achieve is this clip needs to be facing this way. So like I say, it is doable without the clutch tool. I generally do use the clutch tool though, because it is a lot easier. and there you go. That's one of them installed. Okay, so it didn't take me too long, and that obviously wasn't with the correct tool either. You can see there's one of the clutch shoes installed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the other two. Like I say, if you can get a tool, it will be much easier for you, but I can't seem to find mine. So I'm going to go ahead and install the other two clutch shoes, and I'll see you in a second when that's done. Okay, as you can see, we've got the 3-piece clutch shoe installed now. It took me only a couple of minutes, and that wasn't even with the correct tool. So, you know, whilst the correct tool is obviously helpful, it's not compulsory. Okay, next then what we need to do is install the bell gear, so we're nearly there. Now for this we've got a couple of bearings and also a couple of shims as well that we may or may not need depending on how it looks. So here's the clutch bell, and don't lose the screw, you're going to need that. A couple of bearings and a shim. So let's remove the bearings first of all. So we've got 2 bearings for your clutch bell. First thing we're going to do is slide one of the shims onto the engine, onto the crankshaft, sorry, like so, followed by one of the bearings, followed by the clutch bell, followed by the next bearing. So that's something what it would look like. I think we lost the shim, didn't we? Let's put the shim back in. But yeah, that's what it's going to look like, something along those lines. Depending on your engine and car setup, you may or may not need a couple more shims, but the main ones to remember is to separate the ones there, but one between the clutch shoes and the first bearing, and then sometimes you need one on top of here as well. So that will look something like that, would go on there, followed by this screw. Okay, and then that's how we build the engine. So I'm just going to finish that off and then I'll show you it when we're done. Okay, so here we go, all installed. Just give it a try, make sure it's spinning very, very freely. On this screw, make sure you use lots of thread lock, or a little bit of thread lock, because it is going to be subject to engine vibration. Grip it nicely and a nice firm tighten. There you go, and that's fine. And once it's tightened up, again, just check. Spinning nicely, no resistance. And also another thing to make sure is no play. You can have a very, very small amount of play, but we don't want much. And that's looking really nice there. Okay, excellent. So we've got the engine mounts installed as well. Pull start is on. Manifold gasket is on. I can put the glow plug back in when it's in the car. So next thing we're going to do is get it installed into the Truggy. So I'm going to clear some of these tools away and then we'll get that installed into the Truggy. Very exciting. Okay, so the first thing then when installing it into the car is, I'm just going to get rid of these because fuel lines just get in the way. I've just sat the engine into the car and I'm just making sure it's going to fit, just identifying any issues. Also making sure that the throttle arm linkage is going to line up nicely with where the linkage is on the carb. So aligning up with the screw holes, you can see it's pretty tight. This section here, the crankshaft is quite long on this one. However, that's fine. It still will cover the central gearbox nicely. We don't really want just only half of the bell gear covering the spur gear, but you can see actually that's going to work out just fine. So now I'm happy with that. Next thing we need to do is get the 4 engine mount screws just loosely in. So I'm going to tip the car on its side and get 4 of them in loosely. Okay, good. So all 4 of the engine screws are just in there. You can see the engine is still sliding around. So obviously we need to set the gear mesh. So we have a look underneath. We've got the 4 screws just loosely in, and make sure you use Loctite on them. Okay, so now we're going to connect up the ancillaries. So I'm going to connect up the throttle linkage onto the carburetor. It will snap onto there, nice and easy. And I'm also going to install the exhaust pipe. Okay, so the exhaust is now installed. Just replace the tuned pipe holder there with a HPI one. Couldn't find one from Ansmann, but basically all the threads had gone, so that's all installed. I need to try and find another grub screw for this one. Okay, that's good. So now all I need to do is set the gear mesh. So we do this 2 ways really. I'll put a picture on the screen now of what a good gear mesh should look like, but we don't want it to be too tight or too loose, because both of those things are going to damage both of the spur gear and your clutch bell as well. So I'm going to get the gear mesh set up nicely. I think it's quite good where it is, and then give the engine screws a good tighten. Then I need to install some new fuel lines, and then we're going to go outside to start this one up for the very first time. So we're just going to tighten these up then. I like to finish them off with a little ratchet, just because it allows you to get them a good bit tighter than what you can just with your normal hex sockets. But again, we don't want to go crazy, because we need to assume that next time we might need to remove these using just the normal tools. So they've got thread lock on as well, so we're not going to go absolutely crazy with them. That's fine. Okay, lovely. I'm going to install some nice new smoked grey fuel line as well. Okay, good stuff. So new fuel lines now installed. Only thing to pop on is an air filter. Once that's done, I'm going to go outside and get this one fired up for the very first time. Air filter wise, gone for a dual stage waterproof air filter from Schumacher Racing. Just going to assemble this one, pop it on, and then we'll go outside and start him up. Okay, so now it's time to get this one started for the very first time. So I've got the 4-way wrench at hand, got the radio, obviously, got a glow igniter, and also got some fuel. So I've also got, and these engines, these Force engines, are known to have lots of compression when they're new. I mean, yeah, that's really difficult to pull. So I'm actually going to be preheating the engine using a heat gun, and also loosening off the glow plug a little bit. And I am doing a video soon, or I've already done it, so I'm not sure if you would have seen it yet or not, on how to get an engine that is really tight started for the first time. So go check that out. I'll pop the link to that in the description below. So I'm going to fill the tank to start with and get the engine primed. Now today all I'm doing is just the first start and tank 1 of this engine, and then on a later day we'll do the rest of the braking in procedure. So now I'm going to prime the engine, block the exhaust and pull the starter. I'm just going to loosen off the glow plug a little bit, just to help with this compression, because it's really tight. Not sure if there's fuel coming out, so I'm just going to check. Okay, there's fuel now. Okay, there's fuel going in. So now time to preheat the engine. I'm going to try and preheat it up to about 80 to 100 degrees Celsius. Starting that one was an absolute nightmare.